and make sure that we're good to go.
Hey, hey,
Hey, how are you? Welcome aboard.
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Thank you. All good, all good. Thank you for joining us. Let me kill the music that way we can hear you well. All right, Mister. So an honor to have you on board. Everyone is eager to hear you say everything you have to say about improvement and training. Of course, I told you we have a few questions that I wanted to ask you, but I know that you have a lot more to tell us. So I wanted to do first give you like the opportunity to tell us where we can find you, because I know you have a very good blog, you have books, and that's what we've been doing with other experienced coaches and players who have joined us. And with you, it's very special because I know you have a lot of experience playing professionally, but also you have been a coach and you have written so many articles. I also saw in your blog that you have interviewed other coaches and grandmasters. So we're just eager to hear from you. And guys, I'm leaving in the description the links to Noel's blog and his book and his newsletter. So feel free to check it out. The first thing that I wanted to ask you, how long have you been at the playing at the top level, like at the grandmaster level? Like how many years have you
Um,
been?
I got the GM title in 2017,
Okay.
and I was a professional player since 2015, and then I retired in 2021.
In
So
2021.
professional player for 6 years and GM for 4 years before retiring.
Nice. And now you're mainly, I know you're, of course, going back to your blog and you're adding value that way, but are you also coaching people like one on one or not really?
Yeah, I started coaching one-on-one like 2 months ago,
All right.
and I started taking some students. I had during my career, like when I was 14, I was too strong in my club to receive coaching, so I was the head coach of junior coaching actually. So I was like, with 14 years old, I didn't know what I did, but I just did some coachings every week in the club. So I had some experience, and I got some private students as well.
Perfect.
But I was on and off, and now I'm, happy, and I feel ready to have students and not to kick them out after half a year.
Perfect. Perfect. No, no, no. I'm glad to hear, man. So then feel free to share your screen and
Yep.
just to show us around what we can find on your blog. I was on it recently and I really like what you're doing, but for everyone else to see it.
Yep. Sure. Let's try this out.
Right.
I'm, you know, slowly working on designing it nicer,
Mm-hmm.
but that's how it looks at the moment. And then the most important part is obviously the blog section where all the articles you can find. I've tried to put them in some segments, so if you're like searching for something, you don't have to go through all the articles up there, but you can search, for example, for beginner means that it's aimed at beginner. And we even have some guest posts here. If we go to the beginner section, for example, how somebody started learning, that's actually from a reader. That was very cool. But then different things, yeah, best just tactic training, whatever. You can just go through, and if something appeals to you, you click on it and you read through it. Most articles, they also link to each other because chess improvement is very interlinked. Like there's not um, sometimes when I start writing, I'm like, oh, I have to write a second, maybe a third article about, oh shit, this, and you need to know that. So, yeah, you can, switch in between articles as well.
Exactly.
But basically any article you read can stand on its own. You don't have to read the whole blog to get anything out of it.
Exactly.
Um, and I'm also big on mindset, on psychological things. I think that's one thing
Yes.
that
Yes.
that is pretty special about me. I'm not like, my articles will not be like, here in this position play this or whatever. It's always about structure of training or structure thinking, or what happens if you lose a game, how you can recover. So it's my philosophy is to write something that will stand still in 5 years. So you can, in 5 years, somebody comes to the blog and sees my first article, which was,
Timeless.
for example,
Yes.
how not to tilt. And that will be still valid in 5 years. Maybe I'll change some things, but I think that's like my main goal.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I write on candidate shortly or something, but there's the vast majority of articles should be readable even 10 years from now.
Exactly. Exactly. I like that what you mentioned, because a lot of the questions that I get is that part, the psychological part, like how do I recover from a loss, or how do I deal when I'm against a stronger opponent? How do I prepare for that? So I think that's a very good angle that not many people talk about. So excellent.
Yeah, actually, how to play against the stronger and how to play against the weaker opponent were also two of my first articles. It was first the tilt one, then how to play against stronger and then weaker opponent.
Hmm.
And I think that kind of mindset is really important. Like, let's say if you, my aim is also if you read that, it can really change how you think about chess. You're not like, okay, now I know, I don't know, this opening and you win maybe one game, but I try to really change how people think about training chess, improving chess, playing chess.
Exactly.
And yeah, that's like, it really makes my days. Like the nicest things is if somebody says like, oh, now I can take defeats much better. Like that's so much bigger than just chess. No, it's like in your everyday life, you know, I have the right mindset. I'm not thinking about results. I'm thinking about progress. And that's just cool. That's what really drives me to write these articles. And if you want to get some background around me, you can go to the About Me page. That's just some stats. Here you get some stats. For example, when I got first Swiss champion title, all these things. But then there is my childhood, some sweet images, how I came to chess, some personal things. Yeah, that's there's
Very nice,
even
man.
a
Very
place
nice.
for my better half, and yeah, that's it. And that's the About Me page. So if you feel like, okay, where I think I wanted to give readers a bit of background why I'm sometimes, you know, I might be outraged by some things on Twitter, and I'm like, ah, come on. I'm very value driven, I would say. So somebody just out there for the money, I get very upset. So there is some background on why this happened, how this happened, and yeah. So if you want something to know something about my person, just check this page out. Then we have my training planner. It's basically a diary for chess players. Wow, wow.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
gotta hear.
that's
Very
what I'm
nice.
talking about.
Very nice, man.
So it's just a help of how you can schedule your training
Hmm.
with different pages. You can see the some of the pages also here.
Exactly.
How it looks. It's not like a puzzle book or whatever, but it's more how to study that you can write. Okay, next week I'll do that. Wednesday at 12 o'clock I will do that, and
It's
it
very
just
unique. Very
it should
unique.
help you structure your training better.
I was talking to Avetik and he said something very important. He said that sometimes it's worth it spending 2 3 months getting ready for that training, looking for the right material, the right resources, the right people to help you. Then after 2 3 months of doing research and having the right tools, then you get on and you're never gonna look back. So I think that's where books like yours and your blogs and your tips are going to be really helpful. So
Yeah, I
absolutely.
appreciate the nice words. Huh?
So Noel, that's the blog. Then let's say someone wanted to reach out to you for private coaching. Could they do that? Is there?
Yeah, the my email address is on top here, so
Okay.
that's the best way to contact me. Also, I appreciate all the comments, below articles. But if you want a quick response from me, well, not that quick. We might get to that why.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want the response from me, I'm responding to any email I get. Well,
Perfect.
unless it's like whatever insulting, or you just take 5 seconds and say, please give me tips about chess improvement. I'm like, okay, you were on my blog. There are like 50 articles. Like, you
Exactly.
need to be a bit more specific than that.
And
But
be
I'm
serious. Be serious.
exactly. But I'm very happy to respond. So if you have any inquiries, any questions or whatever, just let me know. And then there is the newsletter as well, which you can sign up here.
Perfect.
It's totally free. Just once a week, I send up a short mail, some updates on the blog, what is happening. And then you get a chess tip, which I just share on my newsletter every week, ranging from advice how to think during games to psychological advice, whatever. So
Perfect.
you can just put in your email address, and you can also unsubscribe
Perfect.
anytime you want.
Perfect. Let me just bring over my first question here. And look, first question is, and actually this one I had like at what age you learned and how did you learn? So of course it would be great if you could answer that. But also I wanted to know a little bit about you're from is it from Switzerland? Where is it that you're originally?
Switzerland. Yes.
Switzerland, right? So if you could tell us what age you started, how, why did you start, but also what is the process in Switzerland for a kid? Let's say a 5-year old who wants to start. What is it that parents do? Is there like an academy, or they have to pay someone to teach the kids? So how does that work?
So I learned it from my dad at home. He showed me the game, and then I went to some. We have in where I live in the region. We have like every holiday we have some courses, different courses. You can learn fencing, you can learn whatever, and there was also chess. So I went to 1 week of chess training, and I liked it. And they said I'm not that bad at it. So I started at the club, and I would say around 7, 8 years old. I never know the exact age, and even my parents don't really know when I exactly started, but it's around there. And yeah, in Switzerland it's a bit chaotic. We don't have a huge chess culture. Like even when I was professional, this is not really seen as a job. It's everybody says, "Oh wow, chess! You can live from that," and it's not really in the media. So you don't have that hugely established whatever an academy or different things. It depends where you live.
Okay.
Luckily, it's very close. So wherever you are, probably there is a chess club within half an hour, 1 hour drive. Um, but yeah, I went to this just chess club, and there was this one coach, which then also got my private coach. Um, and then when I started to get stronger, I started to have mostly foreign coaches because there are not that many good coaches in
In
Switzerland.
Switzerland, exactly.
And so I had the pleasure to work with Artur Yusupov
Nice,
and
man.
then many, many,
Nice.
many more coaches. So, yeah.
That's actually a privilege to work with like for me for Yusupov. I would only see him on newspapers and some books. It was like something that I would never see in person. So very nice, very nice.
Yeah, and he's such a nice person. I mean, he is like he was like a bit like a grandfather for all the students. He's just such a great guy, and yeah,
Well,
really
that's
really a
that's
pleasure to work with.
that's so glad. I'm so glad to hear. And yeah, people are saying here that in the U.S. it is worse, and it's true. It's true. All right, and then how long did it take you to become an international master, and then from international master to grandmaster? Actually, better question. How long did it take you to get to 22, 2300? So I think that's national FIDE master.
Yeah, so I just checked. I had my first feeder rating in 2009,
Okay.
and I think in 2007 I had my first national rating. Um, and then I jumped in with around 1900 feeder rating. It was my first under 12 European Championship back then. And then from there, I was a FIDE master in 2013. So from this, let's say, first Swiss tournament, it would be 6 years until the FIDE master title. Yeah, with some ups and downs, and then I think 2 years later, in 2015, I got the IM title, and then I had 2 more years to get the GM
The
title.
GM title. And then, Noel, let me ask you. So going from 1900 to FIDE Master to 2300, did you do anything special? It was just your regular training, tactics, playing, and strategy. Or was there anything there that people should know about, any specific technique or any specific maybe schedule that you followed or routine?
Yeah, I think it's funny because actually I wasn't as structured back then. I wasn't even, it might sound strange, but even as motivated. Like I was in a sports school with chess, so I had more time for chess, but I was usually just lying on my couch and watching some TV. So I wasn't really the example kid, I would say. I was enjoying doing chess, but I didn't do enough hard work, I would say.
Hmm.
But I just played through all of the live games I saw. Back then it was 27chess.com, where
Hmm.
they had all the games if a 2700 player played. So I checked all those games. I did some tactics. I had the lessons with Yusupov or other coaches. Um, and then I played a lot. I was lucky enough to have parents that supported me, that paid me, different events that I could play, and then I played and analyzed, and somehow I would say organically got stronger. And until 2400, everything felt quite smooth, I would say.
Exactly.
Obviously, it's a lot of time invested. It's not shouldn't seem like, oh, if you're stuck at a lower level, oh, I'm so much worse than Noel. I don't think so, because if you're a kid and you have so much time still, even if you're not as serious, but if you just get all this chess somehow into you, it's easier to progress. But then at 2400, I hit the barrier. I suddenly got more motivated, but then I needed to work much more structured and to invest a lot more time to really become a grandmaster.
Exactly. And I wanted to ask you this because I hear a lot of people who are struggling. Like I have friends who are struggling to make it to international master or to grandmaster. Now, do you feel like there's something that they should do? Like I know there was one international master I talked to who said, "Oh, I started to train with a grandmaster, and the first thing that he told me was that I needed to bring something different to the game. I couldn't keep playing the way I was playing if I wanted to make it to grandmaster, and maybe that meant playing different openings or maybe changing their style a little bit. Do you feel like that's necessary, or you just keep pushing until you get stronger?"
I actually have an article on that from IM to GM, which might be interesting for people to check out. And I really changed everything basically. So I had a completely new repertoire. I had a completely new way of studying. I had a different intensity at training. But I think it depends a bit on each person. So I would say for many people, we have that we start chess, we learn, we're interested, and we smoothly progress to some point. And at some point we hit a ceiling the first time. Like
Exactly.
now it's not automatic anymore. And then it depends. Many people then say, okay, I just can't get better. But that's bullshit, if I'm able to say something like that. You can get better, but you just need to work in the right way.
Exactly.
So I needed to restructure my training, really think about, okay, how can I build up a repertoire? But also, how can I really work on my calculation? Like it was the first time when I started working with Algard's book also,
Hmm.
this Grandmaster series. It was really like, okay, you can think in a structured way about calculation. Like, aha. And then I had a sports psychologist as well that I got. And at some point I got a nutritionist. And I just got much more into this, frame of mind where I said, I'm a sportsman. I'm not only a chess player, but I'm a sportsman, and I need to, do all the little things well to further progress. But
Exactly.
that's like, then also, if you want to get to 2700, that's what matters. But I would say until 2500, as you say, you can still, do the same things, just better.
Just a little
But
bit better.
but
Exactly.
you just need, once you hit a ceiling, you just need to change something in your training approach, and mostly it's the intensity you work with.
Okay.
Like you really need to strain yourself. You really need to do, let's say your coach sends you 6 positions. You have 1 hour. They are really tough. You just need to write down what you're thinking. Then maybe you get 5 of them wrong. Then you need to understand why. I was going for a positional idea, but there was mate in 7. I didn't even see the first. You just really need to challenge yourself.
Exactly. And and that's at that level before, because many people tell me every time I go live or I make a video, people tell me, "Oh, I'm stuck at 1200. I'm stuck at 1500. I'm stuck at 1800." And my advice, I made a video about training plans, like how to come up with a training, and something simple. Basically, what I did, Noel, was I came up with a plan. Like when you go to the gym on Mondays, you do back and biceps. On Tuesday, you do chest and that's the same thing, right? And I did it. I told them, look, if you just do Monday to Thursday, because most of the people who are part of the or viewing us now, they are adults who are busy, they have kids. So I tell them, look, if you just take Monday to Thursday, to be realistic, you take 1 hour a day, and you just make sure that every week you hit every area: tactics, strategy, end games, and of course openings, and supplement that with playing games as well. If you look back on Sunday and you hit those areas consistently, you're gonna see progress. Of course, if you want to see more, you gotta, if you have more time, just do more. But at least I feel like if you do 4 times a week, at least an hour, and at the end of the day, you're gonna do more, because once you get started, you're gonna do a little bit more. At the end, you could play a game and you do more. So I think for anyone below 2000, 2200, that's gonna be sufficient to stay in shape and make progress. But at that level, I guess what you're saying is okay. It's not only being consistent with the training, but taking it to a whole new level and make it your priority. I guess.
Yeah, and I think what you said before about the trying to imitate Carlson, Nakamura, whatever, that's
Hmm.
so important. That's why sometimes, I think I Am to GM is a very nice article, but I don't want the people that are stuck at a lower level, they think that they need to change everything. Like,
Exactly.
you need
Exactly.
to understand that the lower down you are, the easier the steps still come. So to win 100 points from 1,000 to 1,100 is completely different than to win 100 points from 25 to 2,600. It's a
Yes.
different intensity, different things that are needed. So I think many things that apply to the top players, those they are trying to squeak out the 2%, the last 2%. And what you need to do is to learn the basics very well. Just get the
Exactly.
basics in. And I would even say, like, I like your idea of training plan, but I'm even more, how can I say, simplistic in a way. I just say, just get your tactics in and play, and that's it.
Tactics and play.
Many people are so overwhelmed. There are so many courses online. There are so many, even blogs, articles, people that want to sell you something. And people just tell me, I have like 70 things I want to do and I don't know what. So first thing I do with every student is I tell him you're not allowed to do anything but doing tactics. That's like the first thing because they do 20 things. So we start with tactics and then we start with one playing session a week, just 6 games. Then you analyze those. Okay. And then if this goes well for 1, 2 weeks, we maybe add a bit of strategy. We
Huh.
add a bit of this. But I think to start, if you're below, I would say 1800, really the tactics is what decides the
So
games.
so let's say someone is between 1,200 and 1,500, right? So we're stuck there, and should they just do tactics? Forget about anything else, just tactics and play games.
I would add initially, if you feel stuck, I would do that only. And then you will feel a difference.
Okay.
It might be a bit, it's not as interesting. So you can, swap in reading a book or whatever you love about chess, but don't see it as training. Like that's fully your hobby. That's not into
Exactly.
your improvement bucket.
Exactly.
So when you want to improve, you do, for example, we talked about Avetic. They have a great, this Tactic Ninja course.
Hmm.
It's just amazing. Get those basics down and then solve puzzles and you will feel the difference in your game. And, and then you can get to the more sophisticated, maybe things that, it's nice to think, oh, I know how to exploit that pawn structure or whatever. You feel really smart, but if you still blunder a queen, like that won't help you,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So I think that's really so important to.
And to your point, we were talking to Grandmaster Bornik a few weeks ago, and he said, I was like he was saying, people asked me what is my favorite chess book or what books I recommend. He says, I don't know because I never read a chess book. He said that he had a program on his computer that had lots of tactics, and he would just do tactic. He said that his dad would make him do tactic for 7 hours a day, and that's all he would do. Seven tactic, tactic, tactic. And then I was like, okay, how about end games? And he's like, oh, there was another program that had lots of puzzles about end games, and I just did puzzles, and that's all he did. He never read a book according to himself. He just did that and play games. So to
Yeah,
your
that's
point,
crazy. Huh?
that makes perfect sense. Maybe you don't have to do 7 hours, but it makes
Absolutely, and I think if you think about Bortnik, he is such a genius. He's so strong.
yes.
He actually beat me when I got fifth in the World Championship. We played for the title, and he completely crushed me in like 20 moves. So I really know how good he is at tactics and spotting combinations.
Yes, yes.
Um, but I think it's also like it might be not the smartest way, but it shows you that you don't need to, as we said before, you don't need to be so complex, having such a complex training routine that it seems sometimes. When you really get to the top, yes, I know I had a sports psychologist, I had a nutrition, I had all these little things, but that's what makes the difference. If I don't know, if I score 7 points or 7.5 points in a tournament. And for me, that might be Swiss champion or second, which is a big difference. But
Exactly.
but the tactics they make a difference of 0 out of 9 or 5 out of 9. Just spotting the most important things. So think about what really really makes you lose these games, and then improve that first, and then you
Exactly.
can take other things.
Good. Now, The other thing that I wanted to say is when it comes to tactics, someone said at the beginning, what do you think of that checklist that you do to see if there's a tactic? And what I was telling them, and you correct me if I'm wrong, I was telling them that I told them if you're doing boxing and someone throws a punch at you, you're not gonna be like going through a checklist to see how you get away from the punch. It has to be like a reflex that you just get out of it. And the same thing with tactics. Like, yes, you could have checklists to help you when you're getting started, but I think at least that's what happened to me. Ideally, you want to get to a point where it's just a reflex. There's something on the board and you found it. So all of these methods that people tell you, they might be helpful at the beginning to get started and get yourself settled, but ultimately you're training to get to a point where it just happens automatically. You don't have to even think about it, like you just explained. And I think that's something really important for people to understand and train with that in mind. Because if not, we get a little bit lazy. If someone tells us there's an easy way, like a checklist, people are gonna be like, okay, that's all I need. But in practice, it's not gonna be as efficient. At least not as you move up, the ladder. So
I think it's also just, if you play a game, you won't have the freedom of mind to go through a checklist. So I totally agree with you. Like for training, it can really help. So I will really tell them like, first check, then capture, then threat. And I will tell them there is a tactic, and we just take it easy. And then we go from there. But at this stage, if I send the student to a game, it's not that he really improved something, because he just improved like a small version of it, but he doesn't have the full repertoire to play a game. But it's just needed to, build up. But yeah, there is no one single easy thing you can do to just never blunder again or whatever. It takes time. You can try to have mental, helps during a game, but you need to be aware that you will be nervous. You might be short on time. So if it's not, fully into you, then mistakes will still happen. And that's why GMs still make blunders, If it's fast, if you're under time trouble, if you don't think clearly, you can make stupid mistakes. That's exactly how it happens.
Absolutely. And yeah, we see it all the time. Like we send super GMs missing checkmate into moves, simple things like that. All right. So let me ask you the next one. And a lot of people are asking, for some reason, and this was a surprise to me when I started with a YouTube channel, many people are really in love with openings. Like people think that's what the most important thing. They want opening traps. And I guess it's also because, and Abetik was talking about that too, it sells. So whoever is doing a YouTube channel or a book, if you make it on an opening, it's exciting, people are going to go for it. And it's been my experience. If I put out a video on strategy or tactics, some people see it. If I put a video on tactics on an opening, that's it. People go crazy with that. So that's one thing. But with that said, people wanted to know, what are your favorite openings? Like if you could just mention one for white, one for black that you have that has been really good to you, what would that be?
So just to start off, I love what you said about the openings and the importance. I think you're spot on, and also what Avetik said, it sells well, But yeah, I'm not going on a rant on it because it's also one thing that I'm very emotional about. But for myself, like I've played the French for so long, and probably it was a bad decision from my first coaches. So it was the first opening I learned. It's probably not the best opening to learn at the beginning because not an open game. It's a closed game. You don't have many similar structures in other openings. But it got a bit my baby in a way. So I like this a lot. And then for black, again against e4, Sveshnikov was my last opening that I played, and I really liked the dynamic nature of the opening. So many different structures, so many interesting games that I played with it, and so that would be 2 against e4 from black side. Against d4, I only played the Nim, so basically all my life. So that's the only answer I can give. And for white, I played the Catalan a lot, but it's not the most exciting one.
It could be, I think. I mean, I don't have as much experience.
You can play as Dubov, and then it gets really exciting. Yeah, you can just find all these pawn sacrifices in every Catalan line, exactly. Which amazes me. But and having said that, for your audience, I think for beginners, I really like, or up to some kind of level, I really like e4, e5 for both sides,
Mhm.
because you just have the most standard moves in the position and you learn to make those logical moves.
Exactly.
And I think that's also something I have to learn. For example, in other sports, I started playing tennis 1 year ago, and when I learn other sports, I basically make the same mistakes that people do when they come to my blog, and I'm thinking like, oh shit, wait, I have an article on that. Like, I want to have like this super serve before that I have a secure serve that is really landing in for sure.
Exactly.
So people tell me do the basics first, and I'm like, wait, I am all the time on the internet telling to do the basics first. Why can't I do it myself? So I think we have this problem to just
Human
not
nature.
exactly. We want to be the genius before we are the we control the basics. So just make logical good moves without blundering,
Mhm.
and that's like you're already extremely good. Like if you make that very strong. Sometimes we were joking even about international masters or grandmasters. We said they don't understand anything about chess. They just make logical good moves and they don't blunder.
Exactly.
Well, after all, if you don't want to get world champion, that's going to bring you very, very far. Like
Exactly.
if you never blunder anything and you make logical moves, like, well, you're a great chess player, man. Like,
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
so
How many times myself or my students we come out of the game, we're like, I had him, but then I blundered this piece or I blundered this attack, and yes, you're right about it.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But
yeah, yeah.
for me, even at 2500, I was the one usually outplaying my opponents, and then I missed some tactics, and obviously the tactics or the combinations got harder, but
Mhm.
it's still the same thing. Like you might be better strategically, nice, very nice, and also for people asking, when do we get into other openings? I think like I played the French until I got 2450 in FIDE rating.
Wow,
I
and
only
and
played the
then
French
only then
game.
you brought the Sicilian on.
And then I started bringing, I had some Petrov experience with like 5, 6 games. Then I played Petrov and the Sicilian and the French. So I mixed everything
Exactly,
together.
and that's an.
Um,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, 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 go, go, go.
No, I was gonna say that that's another good point. That many people think that when they bring a new opening to their repertoire, it means that you get rid of the other ones. But it's more about expanding your repertoire. So you want to bring openings so that you have more instead of replacing one with another one.
Exactly. And once you are at the professional level, like for me, it was nice. Okay, the Petrov I play if I just want to hold, I just
Mhm.
want to try to kill the game. I'm learning all these forced lines and I'm trying to just make it, as boring as possible. And the draw is very good. I played the Sveshnikov if I knew, okay, I want to have a double-edged position. I don't want to kill the game immediately, right? And
Exactly.
then if I knew, for example, that somebody would be prepared for the Sveshnikov and I absolutely wanted to play for a win, I would still go for the French because I would say, okay, he might not expect it. So you have these different weapons. But
Exactly.
that's like top level chess when you play these, close tournaments that you prepare for these opponents maybe for 2 months before that the guys, okay, that guy plays French. If somebody knows I'm just playing the French, like I
Exactly.
had this fun interaction with Hare Krishna when I played the first time in the Bill Grandmaster tournament. And after the tournament ended, I just played French there. After the tournament ended, he said, bye, Noël, and please stop playing this shitty French. So, and he's a good friend of mine. He also then told me, like, if I can prepare for the French for this tournament, all the other players play, such nasty lines to play against for white. The Berlin, oh, that's so boring. How do I get an advantage against the French? Even if you're not winning, but you have so many interesting ideas. So you're so happy to play against somebody that
Exactly.
plays the French. But again, that doesn't apply to anything below 2500, 2400. You can just completely scratch it. So if a top GM says, oh, the pitch is bad, what he means is if somebody on my level plays the pitch all the time and I can prepare against it, then he will get a bad position, right?
Exactly.
That
Exactly.
applies to this small sub amount of chess players.
But
So I think that's so important.
that's a good distinction because that's something else that people talk about and makes sense. Like at a certain level, at my level or below, no one is going to really prepare that much, or they're not going to really know any openings. All right, Mister. So only like two, three more questions here quickly. The next one is just quickly that come to the top of your mind. Top three chess players that you like.
Um, I mean, I gotta say Magnus,
Okay,
just so competitive.
and he's the best.
Yeah,
He's the best today.
just setting new heights all the time. Um, Whom do I like? It's I was inspired a lot by Morozevich.
More Savage. Yeah, me too. Me too.
It's
Yeah.
like crazy, especially French. You know, he played the French for so long. He played in Biel, which is just half an hour from where I live,
Nice.
basically every year. So that's a player I like. Third one, it's tough. I mean, all these youngsters now. I would just I can't decide
Give me
which one of
one.
them.
Give me one. First name that comes to mind.
Let's put
Okay,
Pragnananda.
very good. You know, I met him. I met him like a few days ago. Very nice.
I saw your short on YouTube. Yeah, that was
Yes, yes, yes. Great experience meeting these guys. Absolutely.
yeah. Because I really estimate Ramesh a lot, and he is his main coach, obviously. So
Yes,
I think
yes.
the kid
Oh, I
has a
saw the
very,
interview.
very,
I saw the
very
interview that
bright.
you have on your. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So then the next one, I have only two more quick questions. The next one is, what is your favorite, if you have one, your favorite book? Like one book that you feel like, you know what, this is a book that I'm never gonna forget.
For me, it was from Dorfman, The Method in Chess.
The Method in
It's a,
Chess?
yes, it's a very hotly discussed book. I don't know if you've read it.
No, I haven't, but I'm gonna look it up and just put it here after for people to see it.
I think it's quite tough to get, sadly, because it's out of print. But it's just, he explains. So I worked with him. That's very important to say. And he really thinks in the way he explains it in The Method in Chess. So he is giving like really steps you need to go through in order to understand if you need to play dynamically or strategically, and then which moves you're starting to watch out for.
Excellent.
So let's say you watch at the king's position. And if you have the more stable king's position, you don't have to play dynamically, for example, or whatever. So all these steps, and many people criticize it because they say chess is much more complex. You know, you can't just put it in those rules. But when I worked with him, he really thinks in that way,
And it worked out for him.
Exactly, and he comes up with so many good lines just because of the thought process that I had to say, wow, there is something. And I'm not, I was not consciously using that all the time, but it really gave me a boost in understanding strategical play. I feel that from him, like since I started work, like when I worked with him, even 2-3 years later, I would understand positions immediately just because of what he told me. And I've never seen that position before. And I was like, just going through his things. And I was like, that's probably the idea for white. That's the idea for black. And that must be a plan. And so for me, that was extremely impressive to also compare what is written in the book with what the person himself is doing and saying.
Exactly. All right, Mr. Everyone so far is just saying in the chat that they love the interview. So there's only one more question that is not so serious, but I've been asking it to everyone and you're not going to escape. So the last question is, what is the biggest prize money that you have won in a chess tournament?
So I saw that question, and I think I won 4,000 in a tournament in Switzerland when I got Swiss champion.
Euros or US?
Swiss francs, which is more or less $1-on-1 to US dollars.
Yes. Okay.
But just to add to that, for me, I always supported the career with sponsors. And when one of my sponsors offered me 10,000 for 1 year, I was crying like a baby at home. So that was for me by far the biggest amount of money. I like in one mail, and even in the mail they wrote that they know that this is quite few, but that's what they can pay. And I was like,
you're okay.
That's quite a lot, It's no problem. I will take it.
But next time you talk to them, be like, you know what? It's true, it was a few, but I'll do it just for this year. Next year,
basically 1 year later, I retired. So that was maybe a bad move. But
no, maybe they think that you retired because of that little amount of money they gave you.
Yeah, exactly. Just such a bad amount of money. You just don't care about 10K. What.